Welcome to Stretford Paddock. Today's show is brought to you by Surfshark VPN. Now more than ever, we rely on the internet, whether that's streaming shows, streaming podcasts, speaking with loved ones, or of course, watching the football. Now more than ever, with our rapidly growing digital footprint, security is a huge concern. Thankfully though, Surfshark have got you covered because Surfshark VPN have got access to servers in loads of different countries, which means that you can change your virtual location to a place where the sport might be free to air, or there are different broadcasting rights, or even just being able to log in to your services from back home if you're abroad. Surfshark VPN also encrypts your online connection, making sure that all of your activities, including streaming matches, remains private and secure. And even if you're not just streaming football, whether it's the latest Netflix show or something on Amazon that you've been wanting to watch, you can watch it no matter where you are. And also, there's plenty of region exclusive stuff that you can get access to by changing your digital location. And by connecting to the optimized servers provided by Surfshark VPN, you may actually get faster streaming speeds and reduced buffering, so you're not going to be waiting ages to see if that last minute shot actually went in. Overall, Surfshark VPN offers you the best flexibility, security, and accessibility to all the streaming and shows you could possibly want, making it the best choice for streaming. And currently Surfshark have a phenomenal deal on. Using the code Paddock, which is easy to remember, you get 4 extra months for free and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Again, 4 extra months for free and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Go and check out the link in the description. And thank you once again to Surfshark for sponsoring the show. Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. My name is Joe, that is Jay, that is Ronaldo, and this is the Paddock Podcast. We've got loads to talk about today. We're going to be talking about Manchester United's next transfer. Because since the Mbeumo cork was popped, there's been a constant flow of new rumours, new names, new positions, so much to go on. And I want to look at what's actually important here. What is actually the area that United need to improve in to take us up the table? Because it's all well and good getting a couple of number 10s in, but is it the number 9 that we need? Is it a midfielder? Is it a goalkeeper? They seem to be the positions we're most linked with. We're going to discuss what United actually need to do to push on and maybe challenge those top 4 or top 5, as it tends to be, Champions League spots. First of all though, Jay, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm excited. We go away soon, don't we?
Yeah.
It's not long till we go to America. Wednesday.
Very excited,
Fly
isn't
over
it?
there to New York and that. I'm going to miss you though, Ronnie. You're not coming with us this time, are you?
No, it's not. I'm not coming with you because you just don't want me to come with you this time.
I know, that is true, but, you know, I wanted you to come. I wanted you to come, but Joe said no.
Yeah,
I ruled it out.
And we know why.
3 minutes in.
I'm sure I may be there one day.
Cheers, Jay.
Even if I get enough success to go with my own devices, maybe. I don't know. But next year's World Cup year, so it's a bit...
Steve needs someone to carry his other suitcase. Anyway, you should have just gone with him.
Yeah.
Hey, seeing as he's taking 80k's worth of
Stephen
luggage.
Allison has gone with the most unbelievable amount of luggage. We'll get into all that on the next Paddock Podcast, I'm sure, when we're all out there. And we can go through it all. But it is absurd how many things Steer's taken with him. Let's start as we mean to go on here. Let's just get into this, I think, because I think it's a big, juicy topic. There's a lot to talk about, and I want to go through this sort of stage by stage. So there's a few things to look at here. It's the position that United need to buy in, what players we're linked with in that position, how much we've got to spend, and how we structure the next phase at Manchester United. So far, the 2 signings we've made, I know Mbeumo hasn't been officially announced yet, but it's done. 2 26-year-olds.
Yeah.
2 number 10s. They're not particularly similar really in terms of play style, but you can put them in one category without being, having to sort of do too much hard work there. The next player is going to be very different to those 2. We're not going to get another number 10. It's either going to be a number 9, a midfielder, or a goalkeeper.
Is Mbeumo 26 yet?
Is he not? If he isn't, he is very soon.
I think he's soon, but maybe
closer to 26
he'll be 26 in 2 weeks.
Okay.
So, 25.
Don't you know how fractions work?
Yeah. They'll both be 26 at the start of the season, let's say that. But the next thing is the crucial question. Because we knew Mbeumo was the next transfer for 6 weeks. Obviously, it took that time to make it happen. But I feel like we're into this kind of like open kind of wasteland now, where United clearly want a striker, they clearly want a midfielder, and they clearly want a goalkeeper. But where should the money be spent? That's the question. If we'll get into particular positions and particular players in a minute, Ronnie, but just in terms of a position, what do you think is the most important area that United strengthen in next, or use the resources we have first?
Personally, I've been quite vocal about it. I think the midfield is a major area of concern, especially I know people might look at the personnel in terms of Casemiro, Ugarte and Bruno and obviously Kobe Mainoo and think there could be enough in that, but it's just more about the fact that the Premier League has become such a physical league, as we know, where athleticism is important and power in the middle has become so important. We've been quite lightweight in there for the last few years and it's hurt us, and I'm quite concerned that we've had 2 years now, probably even longer, of a gap in terms of the right kind of personnel or profile of player in there. Well, I always go back to saying about Michael Carrick. I think Michael Carrick was a type of player that back when he was playing, he was probably a little bit undervalued, and it's probably one of the most valuable type of players now, and there's not many of them. In terms of someone that's got a little bit of size, a bit of stature, but they're also can dictate play and they're good on the ball. We've not replaced him for years, I feel like. I think the Man United maybe came close-ish, but I think the midfield is a major area because I don't see any combination that strikes me as the perfect kind of fit. And I think there's a physicality problem in the middle as well. And I think as much as we'll improve going forward with Mbeumo and Cunha, they'll add goals, and goals was a major issue last season. So I think them two supplement it a little bit. I think we need a striker as well. I do get that. But for me, I think if we go into the season without signing a midfielder, I'd still be quite concerned, especially the two systems that we've just seen in terms of Amorim and Ten Hag. Yeah. Them two, the midfield is quite important, and there's a lot required of them in terms of on the ball, but off the ball as well. So I don't think we'll take the leap that you're expecting if that doesn't get addressed. I know some people say we could leave it till next year. I think the goals of Cunha and Mbeumo will add a little bit anyway, so you'll just naturally have a bit of improvement. But I think to get over the hill, midfield is going to be really essential, and I don't see the striker on the market right now. I think you're looking at Mateta and Watkins, and because of their age, you're thinking quite solid, but will it be a stopgap? I think midfield is for me is a major area.
What about you, Jay? What position, before we get into sort of specifics and names and rumours, where do you think United need to strengthen next?
I feel like if it's just one position, because ideally there's probably two at least where we'd need signings, but to answer your question, I think striker. I feel like, although there's ways we could still make this work with the players we've got available, ideally you would want an out-and-out number 9, because I like Xerxes, but is he an out-and-out number 9? Does he fit into that system the way you'd want it to? Maybe you could try it and see. We've done a video on that a little while ago, but I think in an ideal world, you'd bring in someone who's going to lead the line, and who's going to be able to get you double figures in the Premier League in terms of goals, and then obviously let Mbeumo and Cunha do their thing as well. So for me, bringing in Mbeumo and Cunha and then not adding number 9 would be a bit of a shame. And I think there's a pathway to doing that as well. Obviously, Marcus Rashford has moved to Barca, so getting his wages off the wage bill is massive. Ideally, would have liked to have got some money in for him this summer, but at least you're getting what's he on about? 300k a week almost, is it?
Something in that ballpark, yeah.
So it's over £1 million a month. So it's at least 10 million or whatever. Then you've got Garnacho, who's still being linked with a move away. Sancho, we're hearing that something could be happening with him and Juve very soon. So you feel like if you can move on these players and you've got a little bit of money to spend, and there are strikers out there you could bring in who could do a job for me that's better than what we've got in a minute. Because whilst Xerxes is a good player, is he a 9? Probably not. Højlund, I don't know, there's so many question marks about Højlund at the minute, I don't know where to begin. And then you've got Cheeto, who I do like and we rate him, but he's only 17. Can he play week in, week out for Manchester United leading line? Probably not. Probably can in a season or two. But at the minute, if we're going to go for it next season and try and get back into we should be aiming for Champions League spots, even though they might not get there. That should be the minimum you're aiming for, at least. Try and get into the Champions League. Have those aspirations. If you are going to do that, then I think you need a striker who's capable of getting you into those positions.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I think in terms of one position to do next, I think for me it is the number 9. I agree with what you're saying, Ronaldo, about our midfield is lacking particular profile of player. But I think you could make the argument, and I probably would make the argument, that I don't think Man United have a number 9 that is capable of leading the line for us in the Premier League at the club at the moment.
Okay.
I actually don't think we have one. I think in midfield, I think Bruno does things that is good, that can obviously fantastic. I think Ugarte does things that works and can be coherent with his teammates. I think Casemiro makes sense at times. I think Mainu is a very good player. I think you could mix a few things around in there and find some formations and some systems that work. I actually don't think we've got a number 9 that is good enough to be our starting number 9 next season.
Okay.
And I think we have to address that.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think there's a chance that, let's say, Højlund could step up and become that. Chido could step up and become that. But I think, as of right now, what you've got in the squad and what you're taking into next season, it's essentially a team with no striker. And I think that we can't do that. We cannot afford to do that. I know Mbeumo, again, you could wiggle things around and put him up top or maybe play Cunha there, but I think that's a bit more of a stretch. I just think that it's a real issue that we aren't going to be able to fix without buying someone. I think the midfield, there's a chance you could sort of origami and fold this player next to that one and put him as a wing back and kind of make something work there.
Yeah.
But without a number 9, I think we're really going to struggle. But I do agree with what you said as well, Ronaldo, in terms of there is a hole in midfield and there is a type of player missing. Let's have a look at some of the players and some of the names that we've been linked with in these positions then. We've got a super chat from Katu as well. It says, striker, 5 midfielders. It's on Amorim to make them perform. Okay, so he's saying that we should be able to get more out of the players that we've got in midfield. Speaking of Ruben Amorim, he spoke after the Leeds friendly and said, we have a lack of pace, especially in the middle of the park. You can feel it's hard to bring the ball. I don't know what he meant by bring the ball, as in bring the ball out or
progress.
Progress. Do you think that's what he assume he means there? He said, we created chances, we have a lot to do, but it was the first test against the Premier League team with 2 different teams, a good test. But yeah, we have a lack of pace, especially in the middle of the park. Is quite a forward thing to say, isn't it? It's quite an aggressive thing to say about your squad.
It's a truthful thing because, like as I mentioned earlier, how many games have we watched where our midfield's been overrun, or the players that we have in the middle part don't physically match up or athletically match up against most of the midfield pivots for other teams? You might talk about the quality that some of the players in the midfield might have, and sometimes there's even question marks there. But the major equaliser for a lot of these teams that we play, even lower down the table, is their midfield players can run further, faster, longer, stronger, win duels, a bit more physical, and then that's where we lose out, John. And that's been the case for quite a few years now. And I think the way that United kind of neglect to properly address it, it's always going to put a little bit of a cap on our ceiling. I know the goals was a major issue, so we definitely needed to focus on the likes of Cunha and Mbeumo, especially when you've lost the likes of personal in terms of Rashford and Anthony and Garnacho and Sancho. You had to bring in attacking players, and probably obviously it won't stop there in terms of forwards, but midfield to me is still glaring. And obviously you can even mention a goalkeeper, because I don't think people undervalue the importance of that, because keepers sometimes are the player that can like win or almost they determine the outcome of a team season sometimes, because it feels like they have such a direct impact on points won or lost when they make mistakes or have good games. So that's, especially Nani, think the amount of games that Anana might have lost for us by himself, just off not being, do you know what I mean, good enough when you need him to be. So they are quite important today's game, especially on the ball as well, which we haven't seen the best of Anana either, when that's meant to be his selling point. But for me, I'm going to keep hammering it home. I know strikers definitely needed, but midfield for me, definitely.
Well, let's start with midfield then, and then we'll have a look at goalies, then we'll have a look at some strikers. So there's been loads of names linked in terms of midfielders, although I do feel as though it's a position that there haven't been as many concrete sort of declarations of interest from different journalists. I feel like up front we've got 2 or 3 names on this list where it's like, I know for certain reliable journalists have linked us with X, Y and Z. In midfield it seems to be a little bit more maybe agent-led, a little bit more sort of selling club-led.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly, but when you look at this list and when you think of the midfield links we've had, none of them have been quite as like blatant as some of the strikers. No. Let's start with Atalanta's Ederson. He's the one that was linked, that was talked about a little bit more last season. He's a player that is a sort of all-action kind of player. He can play a little bit deeper, but isn't a holding defensive midfielder particularly. He's someone that likes to do a little bit of everything, likes to take the ball forward, can do a little bit of everything. He's good in terms of his intensity, his running is very good, but he's not a Michael Carrick by any means, is he, Ronnie?
With Ederson, I've said this before. He's not somewhat too similar to Ugarte, but he's Ugarte-ish, but he's better. He's a slightly better footballer.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So Ederson would be an upgrade on Ugarte. He's almost like a better version of him, but he's still not different enough from Ugarte. If you get me, for it to be a significant plus. If you're talking about plus and minuses, do you know what I mean? He's not quite what we took, because he's not a natural holder in it or a natural deep player. Because you could say Ugarte isn't. These are people, because Ugarte is a player that likes to be front foot in his defending, doesn't he? He likes to go and chase and hound. He's not someone that sits and screens, really. Do you know what I mean? And he's not someone that kind of takes the ball off the centre half and kind of dictate play and keeps things ticking and like sets the tempo either. So I think Ederson, like Ugarte, are players where you probably get the best out of them, where it's like a midfield 3 and they're a bit of an 8, where they have the kind of license where they haven't got the responsibility of nothing being behind them when they go and chase and hurry. Do you know what I mean? So Ederson, I think he's better. He's a better footballer than Ugarte, but I don't think he's a significant enough upgrade on him for being a similar player type.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair enough. I think,
and also Serie A, sometimes people are having their question marks because obviously the tempo of the league is a bit slower.
It can take a bit of time to get up to speed, can't it? I know obviously Tonali was banned for a long time, but even when he came in, I think it took him a few months of playing in that Newcastle team to really see him kind of get the motors and get the cogs up to speed with the Premier League.
It's the same with the attackers we bought from Syria.
Yeah.
Like Xerxes, I know he scored in his debut, but he, it wasn't long after that he was getting booed. I know it's harsh, it wasn't his fault, but you could see he was adjusting. It took him a while.
Yeah.
Højlund in the Premier League, it took him, was it 16 games or foot? I'm misremembering, forgive me. It took him a long time to score in the Premier League. I know he got quite a few goals in the Champions League, but you could see it took him a while to adapt. I know obviously we're talking about a midfielder here, but you're talking about players coming from Serie A who did well in Serie A and then came to the Premier League, and it did take a while. And if you're going to put a midfielder in there who is similar to Ugarte, and it's going to take him a while to get going, you're thinking, and you've still not solved that problem, have you?
No.
The problem is you need someone who's going to, like Ronnie was saying, screen that back 3 or whatever, and win the ball for you. And if you need Ederson and someone else who's going to do that,
what's the point?
Who we haven't got, because Casemiro's not that guy anymore. You've not really solved anything. You've just swapped Ugarte for someone who's a little bit better.
Well, let's have a look at.
It's almost like you improve on him, but it's not worth the investment for having like a similar type of player just for him to be a little bit better on the ball. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I feel like you need a completely different type.
Well, let's have a look at a sort of completely different type then, because Adam Wharton is a name that's mentioned a lot. Again, with a lot of these players, there aren't these strong, heavy links to Manchester United, but he's a player that United appreciate or that United have looked at in the past. You hear these sorts of phrases. It does feel as though maybe that striker position is the one United are going for next, just because of a lack of clarity. We've spoken about Wharton in the past. You're a fan, aren't you, Jay? You like him?
Yeah, I mean, look, I go off what I see when it comes to a player like this, because I don't think stats can tell you a whole lot. They can tell you something, obviously, but I like to go off what I've seen, and I don't watch a lot of Italian football, so I'm not going to sit and pretend I've watched a lot of Ederson, but I have seen Adam Wharton against United. I've seen him playing against Manchester City. I've seen him playing very well in those games. I've seen Crystal Palace. Every time I've watched him and he's played, he's done well. I think there was a beginning of maybe last season where he had, to be fair, you could see he was sort of wasn't as playing at the level that he'd sort of done when he first arrived from Blackburn. But once he got going, he was very good indeed. Still young, fits the system, the profile of someone we need. Yeah. The issue is how much he's going to cost, because he's in the England squad now. There's talk of him, maybe that Tuchel should make him an England regular, playing alongside Declan Rice. Palace do get money for their players. We know that from when we brought Aaron Wan-Bissaka off him. They don't just give them away. 21. And he's 20, and he's got a contract I think till 2029. So you ain't going to get him on the cheap. So the only way I could see this move happening is if Manchester United sold Garnacho, Sancho, Antony for as much as we're hoping to get for all three of them, and maybe spend a big chunk of that money on someone like Adam Wharton. Yeah. If you're trying to get a striker as well, I don't know if that's going to happen. I'd love it if it did, but I don't know. It seems far-fetched.
Does he work for you? Because he ticks some of the Carrick boxes, for sure, in terms of his screening, his ball playing. But
he's perfect.
Does he have the pace? Does he bring the pace?
He's like the most. He's the most perfect option. I think Adam Wharton's being viewed as almost like the golden goose in terms of like midfield recruitment now, because obviously it's more to do with his age
Yeah.
So there's like potential there for him to improve and get better as it is, but he's already at a level where he's, and I think obviously there's a bit of left foot tax as well. It always feels like left-footed players,
a little bit more
angles, balance, like teams take that into account as well. But Adam Wharton pretty much he's an all-rounder, isn't he? Do you know what I mean?
Does he have the pace though?
No, he has the athleticism as well.
Yeah.
He's great on the ball. He's quite elegant. But he's also got the ball winning side of him. We saw that in the FA Cup final.
Very good game. I know he went off, but he was when they took him off, I was worried. Because I think he picked someone up, and I was like, oh my God. Because there's only like 10 minutes to go, whatever it was. And he'd been playing so well. I thought, is this going to sort of give City the opportunity? Because I wanted Palace to win because I hate City. I thought, is this going to give them just maybe that little bit of an opportunity to get a foothold in midfield? And thankfully, Palace were on it. And he didn't.
He's quality.
He did.
Yeah. You know what's interesting about Adam Wharton? Obviously, he's good as he is, and I think everyone's aiming to. He's probably going to be a bidding war for him next season. It's the fact that a 19-year-old Kobe Mainoo was consistently starting ahead of him in England for the Euros.
And rightly so.
Do you know what I mean?
I think that was a good move.
So this is what I'm saying. The Mainoo,
I
know we had a bit of a tough season, but definitely got to stick.
There's definitely a lot of player left in Kobe Mainoo.
Yeah.
The thing with Adam Wharton as well is, in terms of stats, obviously, like you said, you can't put everything down to stats, but you know, his interceptions, his clearances, his tackles and interceptions are all very, very good. And the stat as well that really stands out is ball recoveries. Is just how often he wins possession back is in the top 4% of players in his position. Like, that's just how you read the game, putting yourself in good positions, being there when the ball comes out, being there when the loose pass is made or a heavy touch is made. It's not a tackle or an interception, but you are just in the right place at the right time. And that's, again, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but from us all watching Michael Carrick, how often was he the one just sweeping up? And he didn't have to slide in and put a crunching tackle in, but because he was in the right spot, or he covered the right lane, or he was just waiting for the mistake to happen, knew what was going to happen a step or two ahead, you end up getting the ball back all the time. And then again, in terms of progressive passing, playing the ball up through the thirds very quickly, Adam Wharton is excellent at that. And again, when you talk about we have a lack of pace, Amarim saying that, you don't know necessarily whether he means 100-metre sprint pace, whether he means over 5 yards pace, or whether he means how quick you get the ball and then give the ball. Because there's more than one type of pace. How quick the ball is moving, how quick our legs are moving. You know, there's a lot of different ways you can read into that. And Adam Wharton he's quick. He's not absolutely lightning, but he's someone that the ball moves very quick when he's on it, which can overcome maybe a little bit of lack.
It's
of
just
that
above,
in other areas.
It's above. It's not like we're asking for like triathletes or like absolute physical. They would help, but it just feels like we need at least some of our midfielders to be above average in terms of overall athleticism, physicality. We're not asking for like them to be almost like world class Olympians. It's more when you're looking at the likes of Casemiro in there. Way below average in terms of athleticism and physicality.
That's gone now, isn't it?
Do you know what I mean? Bruno in a midfield pivot, I think his athleticism is not a bit more below average than it is when he plays further forward. Obviously, that's just based on like stature and physical duels and things like that. And then you've got Ugarte, who's probably the most physical out of the lot in terms of he's not exactly a big guy, but he's committed, he's strong,
aggressive,
and he's not slow. Do you know what I mean? But even then, sometimes he gets run away from. So it's just them things. Then you got Kobe Mainoo, and everyone talks about Kobe Mainoo's one of his one negatives is the fact that he doesn't cover the ground very well, does he? So it's like it's more not saying United need Olympians, just United need to at least just raise the physical capacity of the midfield a little bit more.
Have a couple
at least
in
get
there
to like
that are,
at least get to a.
What did you make of Toby Collier, runner? Because we were talking about this on the watch.
That's the interesting one. He's
me,
the one.
Joe, and Scotty, and I think Steve spoke about it on his other channel. Like, do you think there's potentially a scenario where Toby Collier gets more minutes this season and becomes that guy alongside someone else?
Yes, Toby Collier is the one player where everyone goes, all right, we might have to play him because the system that you've seen from Ten Hag and Amarim in terms of the pivot, it does ask a lot of the midfielder in terms of off the ball and the amount of ground that they have to cover. I think it's twice we've seen that on the two managers. And it's almost like Toby Collier is that guy where he's got a bit of size, but he's quick.
Yeah.
And he's got an engine on him, and he probably covers ground better than all the midfield options. Yeah. It's just about whether he's a good enough footballer. Because one thing that you can say about the likes of Bruno and Casemiro and obviously Kobe Mainoo is they're good footballers.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you know what I mean? But they're better footballers from a technical standpoint than Collier. So it's like whether the physicality disparity is big enough.
Yeah.
Because but could Collier probably develop into that and do the simple things well? I'm not sure. Because Collier isn't as young as you think, is he?
21, is there?
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's 21.
Because it was mad that... Because, I don't know, sometimes I think we expect players just get into the first team at 18, 19, but midfielders rarely do they, at United? Mainly was one of those rarities. Yeah. And then Collier, I know I've said this a million times, but it's a bit of a baptism of fire last season, wasn't it? Coming into that game 2-0 down against Liverpool and you're coming on at half-time for Casemiro.
3, wasn't it?
No, but 2-0 down at half-time, I think we were.
I'd be surprised if...
We ended 3-0, you're right, but I remember, like, Collier coming in out, you're like, bloody hell, there you go, son.
I'd be surprised if Joe likes him, because he came from Brighton.
Oh, did he?
No, I do like him. Is it United?
Well, you like people that leave Brighton,
is it United? Because he had the sense to leave Brighton.
He knew.
Speaking of players who should have the sense to leave Brighton, let's talk about Carlos Baleba a little bit.
Excellent segue.
Because he kind of meets in the middle of the Adam Wharton Venn diagram.
Yeah. In
terms of would be potentially great for United, but he's doing it in a slightly different way. Do you like him, Ronnie?
Yes.
Yeah, I knew you would.
We talk because now we have to be talking about the two young stars of midfield in terms of the Premier League, and Baleba and Wharton. You know what I mean? Both left-footed as well. I think that helps in it. We're talking about the left foot bias, but Baleba is just everything that we've mentioned in terms of we're talking about tiers and the athleticism, physicality. Baleba's like the very top of it, but Baleba's also got he's got the technical skills and quality as well. I personally think Baleba's actually. I'd probably put him above Wharton, just because Baleba's also got that strong ball carrying ability as well, and I think because he's probably a little bit physically better than Wharton, even though Wharton can be a little bit cleaner in certain technical actions. Yeah, I think there's not much to split him, but I think Baleba's just that gives you that extra bit in terms of he's just a bit of a powerhouse in there, and they're both so young still as well, isn't it?
How long has he got left on his deal? Do you know?
I'll double check.
Because the Brighton absolutely pull your pants down, don't they, when they sell players.
2028, so 2 years after this one.
Right. So
plenty of time.
You're going to play. If you did want to buy him, you'd have to pay.
I think there may even be an option for a further year. So, forever.
Yeah.
That's not going to come into consideration.
It's guaranteed that Brighton are going to end up forking 70-80 million out from someone, at least, for Baleba.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like you said, Ronnie, he kind of can do some of the things that Wharton can't in terms of just pure covering of ground and pure physicality, like his tackling numbers, his interceptions, that kind of heavy duty stuff is a little bit more than Wharton's, but not quite as much in terms of just number of passes. It doesn't have that same output of just giving the ball, he'll find something that Wharton does. But like I said, does a lot of similar things.
Which is interesting, because sometimes, we try and contextualise stats, because when you look at FBref, and you're talking about tackles and like progressive passes and that, it's definitely a good barometer, but sometimes I think about the teams that they're playing for.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because sometimes some players, in terms of their stats and where they rank compared to other midfielders, the way FBref does it in terms of percentiles is maybe if they swap teams or if they played for a team that was a bit more possession based, would that change things? They went to a team where lower down, sometimes you find that midfielders have better defensive stats just because of pure volume, because they're defending a little bit more. But that excuse is a bit different, because Baleba plays for Brighton, who's a footballing team. Yeah. Palace are a little bit in the middle. Do you know what I mean? They do play football. I think most teams do. So the fact that Wharton, you're saying, has better footballing stats.
His passing, his number of passes per game, the way he plays the ball through the lines is higher, yeah. But again, these are sort of big names. Let's talk about someone that is maybe a little bit more realistic, because again, I'm not saying that we've had so many links with him. I think Carl Anker mentioned himself that the connection to him might even be based on his own speculation about this guy. But Javi Guerra is one for Valencia, who is 22 again, still in that similar sort of bracket in terms of age. But I think the suggestion would be he would be substantially cheaper than a Wharton or a Baleba. Is a bit more of a ball player. He likes to sort of drop deep, drop back in, but isn't that kind of physical powerhouse necessarily that you see from Wharton and from Baleba in particular. He is a little bit more on the ball kind of guy. Do you like him?
I think he's kind of the opposite though of what you said. I think the UPS for Javi Guerra is like the fact that he's like a 6'2" Spanish, kind of powerful like box to box ball.
From what I've seen of him,
they call him.
I like him.
They
liken him to drop back in a little bit.
They've likened Javi Guerra to like what United lost in McTominay.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Someone that's got 6'2", got size in him, quite powerful runner, physical, not your prototypical Spanish tick-attacker midfielder.
Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't think he was a deep lie. I think he's more of just a box to box.
Okay.
Number 8 who kind of throws himself about.
Does he fit into the system?
He doesn't get goals and assists at all. By the way,
he's not really. He's a good, promising young player. I think he played in the Euros, the under-21 Euros for Spain.
Yeah.
I think his performance there, for people that watched him, said he was just average, didn't really stand out too much.
Okay.
But he's seen as a bit of a prospect at Valencia, and he does. I think what's made people kind of look at him is more like the physical tools that he has.
Okay.
In terms of being obviously 6'2", can cover ground really well, quite strong. But his box to box, he's not someone that can come in and play 6 and get on the ball type. He obviously has on ball ability, but I think he's more like developing into being that McTominay type, where he probably does more of his damage kind of like foraying forward and like crashing a box or defending on the front foot more so.
Obviously, goes without saying, but I'll say it anyway, he's definitely more of a gambling in than the other ones you mentioned. But the sort of plus side is the price will be a lot cheaper and it's probably doable.
Yeah.
If it's around a £25 million mark or whatever, that is a transfer United could actually make this summer with the right sales, whereas the likes of Wharton and Baleba is a bit pie in the sky. But is he the right player though? There's no point in getting someone just because they're cheap. If he's not the right profile, there's still a question mark of whether he's going to be as good as you hope he's going to be. And is it just, well, you've just got him there, sat on the bench?
Yeah.
Or
for me,
playing a few games and people going, what's this all about? And then him ended up going out on loan back to La Liga.
It's more of a project type, isn't it?
That's what I mean.
I'm not particularly intrigued by him on that
And I
front.
just want to say something, and I know, sorry, I didn't mean to. I think Carl himself said, Carl Anker, when he was on here, that he said it on the end of an article almost as an off the cuff.
Yeah.
You know, he's available, or he's someone United could get or could look at. Not advocating United should buy him, but then it sort of spiralled with a paper in Spain or whatever, picking up a website, and it became this almost like echo chamber. It was like going round and round and round, and it was like, if you actually scratched beneath the surface, the story emanated from almost Carl just saying United could get him if they wanted a cheaper.
And then it come out Valencia sources and that.
Then it's
debunked it, saying he's signing a new contract and he's doing the whole hometown thing.
It becomes a big thing when it's based on like one sentence at the bottom of Carl's article in The Athletic, when he wasn't even particularly saying he's the answer to any problems United have got.
There's another La Liga midfielder that people have been clamouring for the last few weeks to look into as well for Sevilla, like Lucien. I don't know if he's on there, but like Lucien Agume.
I don't know much about him at all.
Yeah,
so
but
tell us about him.
But Lucien Agume is one that people have put across because he's another one similar to Javi Guerra, plays for Spanish under 21s international. Agume is a little bit older, but he's a France under 21 player, and he's another one where I think the recruitment in terms of what people are recommending for United are players like Agume and Javi Guerra, where it's more of the physicality aspect that they bring. But Agume is definitely a lot more defensive minded. I think his type of player is much more suited to what we need than Javi Guerra is, while not necessarily being a better player.
Yeah.
But Agume is basically a 6 that keeps it simple, but his UPS is basically USP, not UPS. His USP is basically
he's delivering
defensive.
passes.
He's delivering good passes, but it's more defensive work. I'm not sure what his FB ref will say, but
that checks out.
I'm pretty sure
his
he's a green
numbers
defensive.
are a lot higher. Yeah. His interceptions and that sort of stuff are a lot higher with him. Let's move on to strikers, because I feel like this is the area where we've seen a little bit more in terms of genuine.
Quite a lot.
Yeah,
recently.
We've seen a lot. Let's start with Nicolas Jackson.
Yes.
Because he's someone that we all know, we've all seen play many times, we all have our opinions on him. What do you make of him, Jay?
Been chatting about him for the last couple of weeks, right? And if you say anything positive, you get absolutely hammered. Nicolas
Jackson, loved, is he? He's not a loved player.
The perception of Jackson's like so off it.
Right. In terms of his numbers in the Premier League are actually decent, right? Goal involvements, if you want to talk about goal involvements, I think it's like every other game.
Yeah.
He has a goal involvement, whether it's a goal or an assist. which we usually take as the sort of benchmark for being decent. When we look at those and we go, okay, if Rasmus Højlund had a goal involvement every other game last season, I don't think there'd be the noise around him that there is. And I think there's numbers-wise with Jackson, they're quite decent. He's obviously helped Chelsea get into the top 4. However, the downside to him is, you know me, I'm a simple guy for simple things. When I've watched him at times, he has looked a little bit up and down, shall we say. There's been certain big games where his finishing's deserted him. There's also been a couple of question marks about, I know it's a bit minor, but there was a whole thing with the penalty gate a couple of seasons ago, wasn't there, when it was just like people saying, has he got the right mindset or whatever. He's not a prospect that you go, yes, get him, easiest answer to our problems, if I'm being honest.
No.
I'd probably prefer us to go with some of the other names. Well, not probably. I would prefer us to go with some of the other names on this list. I do worry that Nicolas Jackson I think he is an improvement on Rasmus Højlund. I do, but I don't know if he's enough of an improvement on Rasmus Højlund for that to be our striker signing. I feel like it's a step forward, but not a big step.
Yeah.
And I feel it's got its own question marks around it as well. So if we are going to get another striker, which I think we will, I think out of the list of strikers we're going to go through, he'd be my least favourite one.
Yeah.
But to sort of stick up for him a bit, you can't ignore his numbers. He's not disastrous by any stretch of the imagination, and he's helped Chelsea, get into the Champions League and win a trophy. It's not like he's not done a job for
the way
him.
people
What
talk,
do you think, Ronnie? What do you think about
the way people talk about Jackson, you'd think his numbers weren't good.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I know he's a bit of an erratic finisher, and his ball striking can be very, very hit and miss, which is, I think when you have that though, that's what people kind of hang their hat on as a striker. I do get it; it's quite important. But I think there's this weird perception that Jackson just can't play football, which is. I don't know if it's like an aesthetic thing.
I think it is that.
I think it's an
aesthetics thing.
An aesthetic thing with him, or the way he looks, or is it? I have no idea, because Jackson's a good player. For me, I think he's a good player.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I know there's goals and finishings. It's basically what the main thing of being a striker, and he's been decent enough at that, but he can be frustrating. But there's a lot of things to the art of playing up front that Jackson's actually pretty decent at. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not sure where. I think that the perception of him is quite weird. I'm not sure where it comes from. I think he's a much better player than Højlund. I think he's a better player and he's an upgrade on Højlund and Xerxes if he was to start him up front. And but I get what Jay's saying in terms of, is he a big enough jump to justify
people
it?
are
Probably
sort of
not.
suggesting that he's a 60 million stopgap. That's from Stefan. There's a few people with that same sentiment of like, is it worth spending what they would want for him for a player as good as him?
That's the issue I've got.
Have to be cheap.
And also, going back to what you were pointing out there on it, sometimes some of the stick I know he's a dickhead, but, and forgive me for regurgitating what he was spouting out of his mouth, but was it Tim Sherwood?
It was mental.
He looks like a rapper.
Yeah.
Playing, does he? In what way?
Yeah.
Like, what? In what way does he look like? He looks like someone from Soccer Aid, he said.
Yeah.
Why does he? Like,
explain
that sentiment to me.
Yeah.
Like,
it's pretty obvious.
Do you know what I mean?
What he means there, isn't it? And why he says that.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It was
I do think,
especially with Jackson, it's his development. I know he's not. Is he 24?
Yeah.
He's not like he's finished. He's still got. And Jackson's someone that made the transition to playing up front quite late. Do you know what I mean? He started off more of a left winger, where he naturally played. I think he had a lot of games there as well when he came from, was it Villarreal?
Yeah.
And he's it's only the past few years that he's kind of like went from being a like left inside forward, left winger type of player to become a focal point number 9. Like he's still been learning it and he's been developing. So it's like, I don't know. I think he's, for someone that's like, I'm not saying he's exceptional or world class, I still feel like it can be argued that Jackson's a little bit underrated in a way.
Yeah.
I think people talk about him like he's much worse than he actually is. And but I do agree, for like the money that he might cost, probably not. Is he a big enough upgrade on the two strikers we have to justify it for like 50, 60 million? Wouldn't say so.
Yeah.
But I feel like I need to give him a bit more kudos for what he is like as a player. But I do think it just comes down to what ultimately people judge strikers on, and sometimes he's finishing at times can be a bit erratic and his ball striking is not his best suit. But I think people need to put into context. He's not actually been a striker for that long.
But if United are buying him, they need him to be one now.
Yeah. But the same thing about Watkins,
I do think that.
Yeah.
But I do think with Jackson, like you said, a lot of it is aesthetics and the way he plays and the way he looks when he plays. Like, people always talk about Hazard as being like the ultimate aesthetics player, don't they? Like, just the way he carries the ball, the way his body is. I feel like sometimes you watch Nicolas Jackson, I think he's got a string of sort of high profile bad misses.
It's not even that bad
like
on the ball though.
No, I don't mean that, but I think big misses is bad. Missing chances that you should be putting in is a bad trait to have. I think high volume players, because the XG question is always one with him where he tends to underachieve on it, and he did massively last season. I think there's different types of underachieving on your XG, where some players will have 10 shots, score 1 goal, and they strike the ball well, they look good, they've got the ball around good areas, or they'll take chances. He seems, and obviously this is just the perception of him, and I'm sure if you drilled into it this might not necessarily be true, but it feels like the reason his XG is low is because he'll score a really hard chance and miss a really easy one. And I feel like that is why people look at him and maybe undervalue him a little bit, because I do think he does a lot of good things.
But then, like, you look at him and think he's got a lot of other sides to his game that he does bring.
Yeah, no, I do agree with you.
But people just seem to hyper focus on that bit. I know it was important being up front, but it's almost talked about like he's just a rubbish footballer generally, and he can't finish, which is just not true. No, the numbers he's had for like whilst he's played up front at Chelsea, coming to Chelsea as a 22-year-old. Kind of freshly learning to play up front. It's not been that bad.
I think there's been some big games. Was it the semi-final in the FA Cup? Was it?
Yeah, and the Carabao Cup final as well.
I think sometimes if you're not watching Chelsea week in, week out, and that's your experience of watching him, is one of those big games where you might think, I'm going to watch the Carabao Cup final today. You see him miss some sitters, you go, he's crap him. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Where if you've watched him week in, week out,
because I think when you think through Premier League history, the strikers that get the most ridicule aren't the ones with the worst XG or the worst shot to goal ratio. It's the ones who people think miss big chances. Like Torres at Chelsea. How often I still see him going around? It was De Gea, wasn't it? Yeah. Going around De Gea and putting it wide. Darwin Núñez, Lukaku, these types of strikers. Timo Werner, I know he's not really a striker, but like there's types of strikers that are known for getting chances and fucking them up. Seem to be looked down on more than ones that never get the chance in the first place. Because Nicolas Jackson has definitely got a knack for getting chances and making chances himself. But I think there's a type, and that's when there's an aesthetic of a type of player that people for some reason just don't like.
It's like with Darren Bent. Like Darren Bent scored over 100 Premier League goals. People remember that Harry Redknapp comment, like my wife would have scored that. Like that stays with you, which is outrageous for your own managers to say that, by the way. But like, there's this sort of perception even now that Darren Bent, he weren't all that, whereas his numbers were very good. And if you look at him, you go, if a Premier League striker was putting them numbers up now, you'd be going. And let's not forget, he did it at Spurs, he did it at Sunderland, did it at Villa, I think. Yeah. Like it was consistently across different clubs. Where did he start off? Was it Charlton? He started off,
Charlton, I think.
Like you'd be going, oh yeah, he's a top striker. But it's like those 1 or 2 big chances where people go, he's a bit of a donkey. And it is a bit harsh.
Ollie Watkins, let's talk about him. Because he's someone that I don't think suffers from that. I think he's considered to be a sort of well-rounded, good striker. I think he's someone that people like. That, again, we always talk about Villa, the least offensive club in the Premier League, because they can beat any of your rivals on a good day. No one hates them. No one's really
focus group.
I was thinking that Aston Villa are a team in the Premier League that are good, but they don't really seem to have any enemies.
No. Well, they don't even have the sort of London derby thing.
Because Aston Villa's been one team that I've never minded. I feel like growing up, I've always enjoyed like watching him. You know, I know going off tangent. You know, like Ashley Young days and Stuart Downing and
Petrov,
Stillian Petrov.
Some of them guys.
Yeah, man. Like, this is the thing.
Redhead Sidwell in the middle.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, this is why
maybe even a bit of
Prince William support. Prince William, David Cameron support Aston Villa
Barry,
because they know it's an inoffensive club to support. They've got history. You can't say they're not a big club. They are. They've won a European Cup, Champions League back when it was a European Cup. They've won obviously titles. They've got a big fan base. And like Ronnie's saying, unless you're a Birmingham City fan,
or West Brom fan,
maybe. West Brom.
No one else is bothered.
Like,
does even Wolves beef them or not?
Nah, not really. I don't think so. Probably to a lesser degree.
Would you have Watkins? 29 years old. You're probably looking at still in that 40 to 65 million kind of bracket. I know it's a wide bracket, but it's not going to be mega money, but you're not getting him for cheap. Would you have him?
Yeah, I would.
Would you?
I don't think he's perfect. I don't think anyone on this list that we're going to go through is perfect, because United don't have 70, 80, 90 million pounds to spend on a striker, and that is the problem, because for the top strikers now, you're spending that kind of dough on him. But I think Watkins, yes, he's 29, which isn't ideal, but he has scored consistently in the Premier League for the last 3 or 4 seasons. I do think there's a chance that he can come in, have 2 good seasons for us, and then in an ideal world, maybe Cheeto's closer to being ready to step up. Yeah. That would be like the dream scenario. No, it's not necessarily that would be the case, but you could see something like that happening. Or Ollie Watkins over those 2 seasons helps you get into the Champions League. You have that money to then go out and buy an £80 million striker at some point.
Yeah.
I just think that of all the strikers we're being linked with, he's the one that's probably the safest bet, just because he's consistently scores goals. And I know, Ronnie, I think you put it out on Twitter, and if you didn't, forgive me. Like, there might be an argument, well, look, Marcus Rashford went to Villa and took him out of that Villa side. I understand that, but I think there's 2 sides to that. One is that Marcus Rashford isn't as bad as a lot of people say he is. Yeah. People act like Marcus Rashford's the worst footballer they've ever seen. He's like, Marcus Rashford kept him out of the team. Marcus Rashford's actually a decent footballer, and when he turns up, he's very good. So that's not the be-all and end-all. And secondly, Watkins I know Rashford got injured, got himself back in the team and carried on scoring. It wasn't like that was the end of his
they're 2 very different types of players.
Yeah, and Watkins, although he wasn't happy about it, he didn't completely spit his dummy out. He still did a job for Aston Villa after that. So, look, he scores goals. He would fit into this team. He's got that pedigree. He's got that experience. It doesn't seem to be a problem in the way that some other players have had a little bit of a cloud over him. And it seems doable. This is a transfer that, because, even though he's not got a cloud over him, it's not like him and Emery are best mates.
No.
I could see Villa, if they got a decent offer for him, thinking he's 29.
I think they'd be up for selling him. Yeah. I really do. You just got to get the right fee. This feels like an end of the window one, potentially.
Yeah.
Do you like Watkins?
Yeah, I do like Watkins.
Yeah.
Would he completely scratch the itch? Just because, me, got the whole, he's 29, is it going to be too short?
He's 30 in December as well, so
he's 30 stopgap. So that's a bit of an issue.
This is why you need to get him now.
But there's
not January.
But there's literally, it would be a stopgap, but the thing is with Watkins, he's pretty much a sure thing, isn't he?
Well, one down in the comments,
you know what you're getting.
He summed it up perfectly. Yeah. Do you know those phrases that you hear with strikers like, he's a handful, defenders hate playing against him, all these. The one that sums Watkins up perfectly, and one down said it, he knows where the goal is.
He does.
Do you know what I mean? It's one of those old football cliches, but he does know where the goal is. It's 10, 12, 15, 18, 20 goals a season, every single season. Never fucks up, he's going to get you 35, but you're guaranteed 15 plus.
Is what we didn't say about Jackson, in it.
Yeah.
Right foot. Watkins is like a 2-footed finisher. I think right foot, left foot. He knows.
One game a week.
Really.
One game a week.
Yeah.
Ollie Watkins. He'll do a job for you.
He'll do a job.
Yeah,
he knows where the goal is. I love it.
I'd be surprised if he didn't score goals.
I think that works.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'd feel less worried about Ollie Watkins signing than would Nicolas Jackson and 1 or 2 of the other names we're going to get to.
The thing for me with Watkins, it's got to be under 50 million. I don't want it to be in the 60s, because then that is big money. We've got loads of super chats. Let me get through some of these and we'll look at one more player on this list. Christopher Matthews says, with the current market rates, especially as the window is closing, you can get an improvement in goal and in midfield for the cost of a striker. No, potentially, but again, it's what do we need? Sam Ford said, one of the back 3 needs to step into midfield more. Ahmad Enthusiast says, I think we go after Lammers, then go after Sesko after a few sales. Would love a midfielder like Onana, but don't think any are available. Are you heading off, Ronnie?
Yes, I've got a bounce.
You've got an MOT, haven't you, that you need to sort out?
Yeah.
Let's be honest. So me and Jay will carry on for a little bit longer. So thank you very much, Ronnie. I'll get into some super chats as well. Akash K says, I'm gutted we didn't go for Rios. He could have worked well in that pivot and is able to receive the ball under pressure and can carry it forward. Heaven Soul says, Mateta at striker, Andy Diouf at DM, and Lemon at goalkeeper for me. Keeps the cost low and see where we're at in January. Safe travels to the States. Thank you very much. Benjamin Topper says, happy to be able to catch this live today. Wharton would be a good buy, especially if we could keep the process under wraps and just get the deal done. I wouldn't count that on that as Manchester United. Hamish Murison, striker is a priority. I haven't watched much of Jackson. I haven't watched much of Jackson and Sesko. Weirdly, that is a really hard. Say that phrase.
I haven't watched much of Jackson and Sesko.
It's harder than you think, though, isn't it?
I had to think that.
Yeah, I haven't watched much of Jackson
So I haven't watched much of Jackson and Sesko.
You've got it. So looked at their stats. Don't understand the Sesko hype. 12th percentile for touches in the penalty area is abysmal. Yes, but he isn't a type. He isn't a loads of touches in the box kind of guy, and we'll get to him next. So thank you for that, Hamish. Sean Usher, think we'd be the better team if we spent the striker money on a centre mid and put Bruno further forward. Mr. Lopez says if Amorim took Gyökeres from Coventry and made him a prolific striker, can't he do the same with Højlund or Xerxes? Well, maybe, but it's not. That's like you're saying there that. The only reason Gyökeres is a prolific striker is because of Amorim.
Also, it's slightly different.
Doesn't necessarily work like that.
To identify a player and go, I can make something out of that player, or that player fits into this system and can do a job for me, than inheriting a player and then being told to just make them into the player that you want them to be. That isn't the same, is it? It's more difficult to do the latter than it is to do the former, because he obviously saw something in Gyökeres where he thought, get him in this team, in this system, I can work with him. He didn't go out and get Joshua Xerxes or Rasmus Højlund. No. He inherited them.
And most of the time, not always, sometimes managers work so closely with the player that without them, they're not the same. But most top players are top players with every manager.
That's a fair point as well. And it's he did well at Coventry, and you can't just ignore that.
And then Amorim left, and he's still class.
Yeah, I was chatting to a Coventry fan. Where was it? I can't remember where we went. Somewhere. I think it was when we went to the Europa League final on Coventry fan on my flight. I was just raving about him.
Yeah,
and saying he knew he was going to go on to do big things. So, it's one of them. It's not that simple. I wish it was. Just on the Watkins front as well. What was it? 16 goals last season in the Premier League.
Yeah.
I mean, if United struggled for goals last season, which we did, and then went out and bought 3 players who'd scored like 50 Premier League goals between them, that would be like quite a statement, wouldn't it? Yeah. Whether it works or not, it's remains to be seen. But if you brought we've already brought in Mbeumo and Cunha, you've got 36 goals, whatever it is, I think, last season in the Premier League. You added in Ollie Watkins, you'd be like, United have made an effort here to try and address that in a big way, because it's not often United buy 1 Premier League player, let alone 3. I know it's not happened yet, but I don't know. I just think that would be a pretty big statement. Yeah,
I completely agree. A couple more super chats, then I will talk about Benjamin Sesko. Reese says the answer is Ezekiel Palacios, Mainu's partner, plays for Bayer Leverkusen. I'll be honest, I don't know too much about him. He's obviously one that we've not really been linked with too much, have we?
No, so I'm curious about I feel like at the minute United are looking at strikers, and that's why it's all the media and the press are reporting on strikers, because it's like the club are focused on that, and I feel like the club are looking at that as a priority. The club maybe believe that worst case scenario, we don't buy a midfielder, we can make it work like you and Ronnie was mentioning earlier with Mainu and Bruno, or Bruno and Ugarte, or Casemiro and Ugarte, or some sort of combination, or Collier and Ugarte, or whatever. It's not like the end of the world if we don't get a striker, don't get a midfielder, sorry. So the focus right now is, look, we need someone to lead this line because it ain't quite happening. And I feel like once we do that, all eyes are going to be on the midfield. I don't think that we'll just go, right, we've got a striker, we're all sorted now. Because especially when your manager's making comments about midfield as well, it's obviously on his mind.
Yeah. If you're watching, please hit the like button. If you're watching and we've got less than 1,000 likes, hit the like button, please. It helps us out very much. Ross Murphy says, buy Watkins just to make a Bonglahor cry. That'd be a good laugh. Bumbilly1 says, Nicolas Jackson is a Chelsea legend. Chelsea fans would hate for us to take him. Nicolas Jackson should retire at Chelsea. I think that's a good point.
Is that a bit of kidology there?
Might be a little bit of sarcasm there. Good point. Danny says, Google big chances missed Watkins/Jackson.
So I'm guessing Watkins has missed his fair share of big chances.
Oh, of course, yes. This is a 30-year-old striker.
Yeah, but he has scored consistently. He scored a lot of goals. I think that the issue with Watkins as well is when he's played against United, he hasn't done much. So if you're a United fan, it's like, if you don't watch Villa week in, week out, which, let's be honest, none of us do, and then you see him against United and you think he's been very quiet.
Yeah.
It's hard to get too excited, but I do feel like he'd get you goals. I feel like he would. He might not be like the answer to all our problems and everyone's absolutely adoring him and he's a cult hero or whatever, but I feel like he could do a job.
Let's talk about Benjamin Sesko.
I want to hear your thoughts on him.
On who?
Benjamin Sesko.
Yeah.
Is it Shesh?
Well, it's got. If you look,
I'm not trying to be a dickhead.
It's got the. I don't know the name of them, but they're sort of tiny little V's, that almost look like seagulls over the S's, and I think that makes it become a sort of a kind of noise. So I think it's sort of Sesko.
Sesko, right.
I don't know what would be the accepted
No,
British
I'm just curious because
I think Sesko,
I'm always
Sesko.
getting my pronunciation wrong, and I'd like to try and get it right.
Be a little bit playful with it.
Right, okay.
I don't think he'll mind. He's someone that is I would say, completely different profile to the likes of Nicolas Jackson. I think he is 6'4". He is a brute. He's very quick in a straight line. He strikes the ball as good as anyone you'll ever see. The way he hits it, as they say, it stays hit.
Love that.
He's one of those players, you watch his highlights and you think, well, this is like playing against a train. I don't know how I could possibly tackle him. I don't know how I could get in the way of him. And then you look, and I'm not saying this is bad.
Go on.
15 league goals. That's all right.
Yeah.
But it's not, it's nothing that Solskjaer hasn't done. And he was, he's a legend, to be fair. But you know what I mean, though? It's not
nothing that Ruud van Nistelrooy hasn't done.
Well, that's the difference. Ruud van Nistelrooy is getting 44 goals in a season.
Yeah.
I do think that he's the sort of player, not like Jackson, but in the same way as Jackson, that when he's playing bad, he's going to get fucking destroyed.
Right.
Because like Haaland, there were games in his first season when he got 58 goals or whatever it was in all competitions, where you look at his heat map and it is the kickoff and that's it for a half.
Yeah.
He was having like 3, 6, 11 touches in a half. I think there was one game where he had like 11 touches and got 3 goals.
Yeah.
But if you take those 3 goals away, if not all of those touches are coming in good areas, he's essentially useless. Obviously, the use is getting goals and getting the ball in the back of the net. But that would be my worry with Benjamin Sesko. If you want to compare him to anyone, it would be a Haaland-esque kind of player. Not that they're the same, but you know what I mean.
The issue I've got with him, from my point of view, I haven't seen enough of him.
Yeah.
I've seen him playing for Slovenia, innit? And he was all right. I've only seen a couple of times. He looked all right. I don't know. It's difficult for me because when I look at those numbers, I think those numbers look decent.
Yeah.
They're not like, oh my God, Gyökeres numbers. But there's a lot of hype around him. And it looks like Arsenal were on the verge of getting him, didn't it? Until about 2 weeks ago, where they've obviously shifted their attention to Gyökeres for whatever reason. So I don't know. I think he's an exciting player. Obviously the highlights, which don't say the full story because Gabriel Obertan looked mint on his highlights reel, but you can see when he scored some of the goals he scores are the type of goals that fans love. And there's no doubt there's an exciting player there. My question is he on that upward trajectory? Is he a player that can reach the dizzy heights? Because that was the argument, wasn't it, for Højlund?
Yeah.
It wasn't what Højlund was doing now, it was what he was capable of doing.
Yeah.
That's why we got him.
I think one comparison with Sesko, his build-up play is better than Højlund's for sure.
Okay.
He's good at holding the ball up. His touch isn't bad. I'm not saying he's this real clunky guy.
Yeah.
But he's obviously the other end of the spectrum just because of his physical attributes to, let's imagine, like an Aguero, who's happy dribbling in and out of the box, who loves the ball at his feet. For instance, his touches in the attacking penalty area are in the bottom 12%. So, but that's not necessarily a problem if you're hitting it once and it's in. But my worry with him is his hold-up play is good, his finishing is good, his ball striking is good, but 13 league goals in 33 appearances is good. But as a 22-year-old in the Bundesliga, it's not astonishing. It's not 100 or 90 odd million quid worth for me. That would be my concern.
That's a fair comment.
Yeah.
And you've obviously watched a lot more of him than I have.
And I haven't seen loads of him, by the way. I don't want people to think I think I'm an expert.
No, I know you're not.
I'd love to learn more about him.
I want to throw in one more name before we wrap up as well.
Go
That's
on.
Okay. But just on Sesko, does he work then? If his hold-up play is good, his link-up play is good, if he's got someone like Matheus Cunha and Brian Mbeumo alongside him who can score goals, does that trio work for you?
I mean, yeah, and that's
in theory.
Yeah, in theory it could work. I'm more worried about the price. I do think he's a good player, Sesko, and I do think for his size he has got a decent bit to his game, but I don't know. I think he's going to cost so much money. Wasn't the reports of like 80, 90 million euros? That's what they want for him. I don't know if we would end up paying that.
A problem, innit?
Why didn't Arsenal sign him in the end?
I don't know. Do we know? Does anyone, the producer?
It seemed like that was like going to happen, and then all of a sudden they're signing Gyökeres.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't know about that one. It seemed very weird because it seemed like they were moving forward. The Sesko signing. Maybe someone in the comments in the chat can help us out on that one. And then all of a sudden, because that's one of the reasons I thought we might get Gyökeres, because no one else seemed to be in for him. Sporting didn't want him, well, he didn't want to stay at Sporting anymore. He'd fell out with the president and all this other nonsense. So you thought, well, he's going to go somewhere. Juve have shown a bit of interest, but I don't know if that's going to happen. Maybe United can get him for a bit of a cut price or an 11th hour bid if we sell a few players. However, then all of a sudden, before you know it, Arsenal in for him. I know there's been more rumours about Gyökeres to United, but that just looks like mischief making from his agent or whatever. Yeah. Everyone who's worth their salt when it comes to reports is saying, ignore that, it ain't happening. So that is a strange one in terms of what exactly went down with Sesko. I don't know, man, is the honest answer with him, because I haven't seen nothing, but I just know he's a player that has been spoken very highly of for 2 or 3 years now, innit? Yeah. Since he was like in his teens. So he's obviously well regarded. I just wanted to ask you one more. I had him in news this morning.
Go
on. And that's Muani. Oh, we have got him on a list. Sorry, I didn't realise we did. So went to Juve last season. Was it 8 and 16 at Juve? Yeah. And then obviously went from PSG. He's 26. He's not a kid.
I'm not having this. What United don't need at the minute is like damaged goods. Okay. I think he's someone that is massively on the way down. Right. I don't mean in terms of his age. I just mean in terms of the hype around him.
Yeah.
He was one of these big Frankfurt boys, wasn't he? Yeah. He got chucked to PSG for 90 million euros.
Frankfurt, by the way, whoever does their business wants a pay rise.
It's absolutely astonishing.
They know how to sell players, them, don't they?
Yeah. And when you look at the list as well, it's Kolo Muani was 95 million. We did this before, but
let's do it because it's interesting.
Kolo Muani 95 million, Omar Mamouche 75 million, Luka Jovic to Real Madrid 63 million, Sebastian Haller to West Ham 50 million. They're the big ones, and then obviously now you can add Ekitike to that for 90 million as well.
Every single one of them, including Ekitike, feels like the top end of what you would pay.
Yeah.
It feels like that's the most realistically you're going to pay for that player.
Yeah.
You're not going to pay more than that.
No.
So they've got top whack for all their sales.
And also, other than Marmouche, who, let's just say, jury's out because he's just got to
He had a great start, didn't he? Was it actually against Newcastle, I think, or whatever?
I think he's a decent looking player.
Yeah, he looks... when you play against him, you worry about him.
Yeah. The rest of them have been awful signings. Jovic, horrific. Sebastian Haller, fine. Randall Kolo Muani for 95 million. I know he's got a couple of goals for PSG. Doesn't get a game from when everyone's fit. It's a terrible
If you're
transfer.
Getting loaned out at 25, your career ain't going well at 26.
In terms of terrible transfers.
No disrespect to Marcus Rashford, but let's be honest about it. He's kind of worked out all right for him now. He's ended up at Barcelona. But if you get loaned out in your mid-20s, something's gone wrong.
Yeah, I'm not up for Kolo Muani. It reminded me, though, in terms of worst transfers, I think there's a shout for worst Premier League transfer of all time that everyone forgets about. Can I give you a couple of details about this transfer?
Give me a clue.
For me, this is the worst transfer in Premier League history for the following reasons, right? This player was sold for the biggest loss of any transferred player in Premier League history.
Right, okay.
Obviously, some players have come in for a fee and then gone for free, but I don't mean that. I mean players that came in and then were sold during the same contract.
Yeah.
This is the biggest loss that anyone's ever had. Played one season at the club, or played for that club for one season.
Yeah.
Was sold for a £75 million loss. Was it? I'll give you another clue because you're not getting it. Scored 8 goals, I think, in 36 games as an attacker. Let me just double check that. And it goes under the radar for me. No one talks about this transfer. You can't even think of it now, and you've been watching. You probably watched almost every game that he's played.
Oh right, so he's got to be a United player. Then.
No, maybe not almost every game. You'll have watched a decent number of games that this guy played.
Wait a minute.
Scored 8 goals in 26 league games as a striker.
Right.
And was sold at a £75 million loss, and you can't even think of it. How mad is this?
That everyone in the chat and the comments will be.
Everyone will know, obviously.
Yeah,
they'll Google it. But I was thinking about this thing, thinking, I forgot that even happened. Should I just tell you?
Yeah.
Lukaku to Chelsea.
I was going to say Chelsea. It stinks of Chelsea.
Lukaku went to Chelsea for £100 million from Inter Milan. Played 26 league games, scored 8 goals, and then that next season was loaned back to Milan, then loaned to Roma, then sold to Napoli for £25 million.
You think as well, right?
That is so bad.
It is bad, and yet bizarrely, you thought that probably made sense at the time. 100 million is excessive. I'm not saying the fee, but he's a former Chelsea player, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He had a proven Premier League pedigree. even at United where he'd flopped, he scored goals. And he scored the type of goals that, in terms of his numbers, we'd be more than happy with now. I'm not saying we want another Romelu Lukaku who's thinking big games, he was atrocious. But his numbers were decent. West Brom, his numbers were decent. Yeah. Everton, his numbers were decent. Like, he is historically, I think, one of the most prolific strikers ever.
Yeah.
In terms of his goals to games ratio.
He's got over 314 club goals, and I think he's got close to 100 goals for Belgium
top scorer by some distance as well.
Yeah, he's got 89 goals for Belgium.
Which is insane.
So 450 plus goals as a player. That's astonishing.
That's
amazing.
Like, you're sort of around the Zlatan numbers there, aren't you? The Cavani type numbers. It's like, you're not the Ronnie and Messi numbers, but you're like the next level of numbers. That's you're in that group. Yeah, that signing, didn't he score like once at Stamford Bridge or something as well?
Well, he scored. I was reading about it. So he scored like, as he did with United, 5 or so goals really early on. He scored in the FA. He scored in the League Cup. He scored in his European debut. He scored 3 goals in his first 5 games in the league, and then just didn't score again. And then he fell out with Tuchel, and he was gone.
That's mad, because that at United, I know this with Lukaku. I think it was 9 in his first 10 at United. 42 out of 96 overall. But in the big games against the big 6, I think it was 1. Yeah. And also, he set up 2 goals for City in the Manchester derby.
You can't be having that. We can't be having that, let's be honest.
He went to the World Cup and put on 2 stone, which I don't know if he meant to do that. It was like I'm going to put on a load of timber, I'm going to make myself bigger. But it didn't help him. No. And then the thing with Lukaku is he became that meme, didn't he? The Benny Hill music, the falling over his own feet at Southampton. Like, it was just so weird. And yet, this is the guy that, scored, was it 2 goals against PSG?
Yeah. Bizarre.
In Paris, like...
I just think that transfer does
go under the radar. It's like it didn't happen.
It's a £100 million transfer, Jay.
That's mad.
Man United have never had a transfer that big in our history. And we're the best team ever.
How much money has been spent on Lukaku?
Well, he's the most expensive player cumulatively of all time, or certainly he was at that point.
Right, because we spent, was it 79 on him?
Yeah, we 75, I think.
Sorry, forgive
Maybe
me.
it was going up to 79.
No.
I don't know.
You'll know better than I do.
At the time that he was bought by Chelsea, he became the most expensive all-time player with a cumulative total then of 285 million, surpassing Neymar. But I think since then, Neymar went to Saudi for 100 million euros, going back in front of him. But then he's been sold again since then. Over 300 million has been spent on Romelu Lukaku, which is astonishing. And yet, that one specific transfer, I think, is the worst in Premier League history. Right, should we wrap it up?
Can we have Wally of the Week before we do?
Oh, of course.
Sorry.
Let's do Wally of the Week. No, let's get into it. I forgot. Who's yours?
Mine, and I hate to give him airtime, but I'm going to. Right. Dean Saunders on Talk Shite. Yeah.
Dean Saunders.
Like, I'm sorry. And I've spoken to Dean Saunders. I've been on Talk Shite to call me a hypocrite. But this was just so mind-blowingly stupid.
Go on.
And a lesser man would say there's something sinister here. Talking about Marcus Rashford's move to Barcelona, right? And he was like, he doesn't deserve his move to Barcelona. How's he done that? The usual stuff we've heard being said over the last few days since Marcus Rashford, it's been announced he's got a Barca. And whilst I don't completely agree with that, I understand it. I'm not one of those going, I don't understand that. I understand an argument without agreeing with it. I don't think that's beyond the realms of sort of possibility. So he's making the argument about, he fell out with the manager at United. He went to Villa, didn't do a lot. I think that's a bit harsh, but I understand. Again, you can say he didn't set the world alight, got injured there. But then he sort of gets carried away with this speech.
Narrative.
Yeah, this narrative, this soliloquy. And then takes it a step further. So Marcus Rashford is driving around in a Bentley or whatever, and he shouldn't be doing that when there's there's people that can't afford to pay their electric bills and all the rest of it. And I think, what the fuck are you on about? Where are you going with that? For starters, of all the footballers, you might not like Marcus Rashford, right? And that's fair enough. I'm not here to defend Marcus Rashford, but let's be honest. Of all the footballers in the Premier League, there is a grand total of 1 who has actually done something about poverty in this country to the degree of feeding millions of kids. And that's Marcus Rashford. Now, whether you like him or not, that's what he did. There's only one player that's ever made the government do 2 U-turns to make sure that kids got free meals when they couldn't afford them. And that was Marcus Rashford. So to try and hit him with you're flashing your cash when there's kids and people that can't afford anything is bizarre.
Yeah.
To me, if you're going to have that argument, have it about all the other players who flashed the cash, who didn't do anything when it came to poverty in this country. To go on like that and sort of lay that at him and then go on about the car he drives, I find that gross.
Yeah.
I do. Now, you can have a discussion about Marcus Rashford's form, his ability, his attitude, all those things. Fine. I ain't got a problem with that. I'm not here to completely blindly defend Marcus Rashford. I understand those arguments. I've made some of those arguments myself. But when you start going on about the car he drives and how that's a disgrace and all the rest of it, and why is he driving a Bentley? Why didn't he drive, he could drive a nice Range Rover. What are you, his fucking mum? Shut up.
I hate that. I hate and for some reason, obviously, there's a conversation to be had about footballers' wages, I get it. But for some reason, the money that footballers earn is so much more hated and scrutinised than the money other professions with a similar income earn. If you know a bloke who owns 15 restaurants and he earns like 5 million quid a year off his restaurants, no one ever goes, restaurateurs need to stop driving around in the big car. It's literally never spoken about. Someone who's a successful businessman, it is never spoken about. For some reason, footballers, I don't know if it's because there's a higher chance they're from a working class background, whether it's a public kind of role that others aren't, but it's like you don't deserve to be well off, despite the fact that the country as a whole cares so much more about watching football. There's so much more love and money and time put into football than there is almost any other industry. Like, there are plenty of people who deserve to be paid more than they are, but this thing of dragging footballers down, like, you don't deserve to have a nice car. Why don't it?
It's just nonsense. And it was seen it like, I think TalkSport got a bit of form for this, Marcus. Someone tweeted and it was like, oh, Marcus Rashford is, the club that made him a millionaire and all that. Well, it's not like they just went, I'll have a load of dough for now.
Yeah.
Like, he came through the ranks and got himself a contract and all the rest of it. And I think that whole thing, like, Matt Hancock did it in COVID, didn't he? He singled out footballers. Yeah. He said, football. He didn't single out investment bankers or the royal family who own all this land or Prince Andrew, who's actually a nonce. He didn't do any of that. He just went, footballers need to step up. So Marcus Rashford went, all right then, sound, let's do that. How can I help out? How can I feed kids? Let's do this. And when the government said they weren't going to do it, he went and did it himself. So now you're singling him out, which just to me sounds a little bit...
I always think as well there's a little element with former footballers who retired just before the money got mental, where they see players who they think, I was better than him, and he's earned 100 times what
Maybe
I
there's an element around Dean Saunders,
because
Dean Saunders, to be fair, because he mentioned Villa, Dean Saunders did very well at Villa. You think he scored a load of goals when we first won the Premier League title. I remember it was Dean Saunders and Dalian Atkinson, God rest him, who were the two main strikers for Villa, and they were banging in the goals. So, and I know he was at Liverpool and all the rest of it, but he was a good top-level player. Scored a load of goals at Derby, scored for Liverpool, scored for Villa, and probably didn't earn the money he should have done. And now
he was never on 300 grand.
No. So there probably is an element of that, but I just find that, listen, have an argument or discussion about Marcus Rashford all you want. I'm not saying you can't, but when you start going on about how dare he drive a Bentley when there's people that can't afford to pay their lecky bills as your argument, bore off.
Yeah, people talking in the comments as well. A couple of people mentioned like actors. Like, again, not that we should be criticising them, but we're not saying that. But like actors is a good one where the job you do superficially, and you're not helping people directly. You're not changing the world. You're making art. You're an athlete. Whatever. There's a similarity we had there. But you don't ever see actors being told off earning money for not that you should. No, but I don't get it with football.
Do you remember in COVID and all that, right? Where you've got all these like COVID going on, people struggling, people obviously the jobs have gone to shit and all the rest of it. And actors got together, some of the biggest stars in Hollywood,
and a lovely little song,
and sang Imagine. Which made me want to put my fucking foot through my laptop.
That helped us all, Jay.
How's that helping anyone? If you want to help out someone, empty your bank account and spread all the money around.
Imagine
and it was like, that's their solution to the problem. And when you've got a young lad from Wivenshaw who actually bothered to try and do something, I bet he actually regrets it. Because I think some of the stick, not all the stick, but some of the stick that he gets is just since, people turn against him over that.
Yeah.
So, I thought that was just pathetic. It really was. And look, I'll always try and stick up for players who I think are being judged unfairly. I'll certainly try and stick up for the players who are still Manchester United players when they're getting hammered off ex-Scousers.
Yeah.
Go on, who's yours?
Probably just my gas and electric.
You gas and lecky?
It's gone through the roof.
Are you want to moan about Marcus Rashford's
it's July.
Bentley because you can't
the
afford your lecky bill?
No. We haven't had the heating on for 6 months.
Right.
And it's just gone up to like 200 odd quid a month.
Really?
Something absurd. I don't know what's going on.
Have you got a thingy in your spare room?
Growing that.
Yeah. You got all them like sunbeds in your spare room.
No, I'm not. But I'm not growing drugs. I'm growing. Do you remember those little aliens that you get in a pod?
Yeah.
And some said if you put them in the fridge, then they give birth.
Really?
I reckon if you put them in a hot room, they'll give birth. So I've got about 20,000 of them, hoping that they'll give birth in there. Don't tell my girlfriend though, because Like I said, the bill's gone through.
She finds
the
that
roof.
secret key on your key
They've all
ring.
just-
What's this open,
They've
Joe?
all just melted.
What's this key
just
for?
I open the door, it's just loads of slime all over the floor. I can't go in there, I'm too
You
scared.
told me this was a cupboard, Joe.
Right, let's just wrap it up because you're going to hear this. Thank you very much for joining us at home. Thank you, Jay, of course. Thank you, Ronnie, who has now disappeared. This has been the Stretford Paddock podcast. Make sure also, if you're watching, you can download this. All of our podcasts are out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure you check us out on there. Thanks again, Jay.
Thanks, bro. I've enjoyed this. Bit of a bump one, wasn't it? But
yeah,
it was a good chat. So thank you to everyone who got involved as well. And back tomorrow, we've got the news in the morning. Then we've got Joe's doing one of his special vids. I think that's going to be out Wednesday. And then me and you, we're having a chat tomorrow before we go to America. We'll have a little chat. So make sure you, like Joe was saying, subscribe to check out all that.
Thank you very much. We'll see you in a bit.